Hello. How do you bring new information to somebody, maybe help them take a different perspective or even change their mind? I had a situation the other day. My wife and I were having lunch with an old friend and his wife, and we were talking about our kids. We both have 20-something-year-olds, and we were talking about their challenges dating and building relationships. And my friend's wife talked about the female perspective of building relationships at that stage and what some of the expectations were. And then my friend expressed his opinion, and it was very much from the male perspective. And what I heard was that he really had not listened to what his wife had just said. And what his wife said I thought was valid from one perspective. And while I understood where he was coming from, I thought it was really valuable that he might at least consider her perspective a little bit more. And so how do I share that with him? How do I kind of nudge him and help him consider another perspective a little bit more, maybe give a little bit of credibility to what she's saying? Well, you've got a number of different ways to approach it. You can come at him directly and say, this is what you should do. Certainly a possibility. On the other extreme, don't say anything. In between, you might ask questions, you might try to inquire and get him to, in the course of it, thinking about and answering questions, maybe he'll take into account some of the other perspectives. Could tell a story about a third person, third party, that might bring some perspective, help him kind of think about that. And also could tell a story about my own experience, a very, more personal version of a story. And what are the pros and cons of these different things? Well, if it was something that he had no experience about, no clue whatsoever at any level, then maybe directly telling him might be the really thing to do. And if it was something that, he was really upset about and, visibly upset, well, sometimes saying nothing is the best course of action in that situation. In this situation, he was in between. He wasn't completely clueless, inexperienced, and he wasn't emotionally distraught. So it was in between. So based on that, my assessment, some version of asking questions that helped him think about the situation without being too obvious. Did you hear what your wife said? Probably wasn't any less direct than just telling him what his wife had said. Another approach, would be, another type of question would be, why do you think that the young lady might have reacted this way or might not react the same way as your son? Telling a story might be the strongest emotional connection between us and build a bond, as opposed to maybe the direct approach, while having good information, might produce an emotionally defensive reaction. Why are you attacking me? I thought my reasoning was very valid. So there's pros and cons for different approaches, but in many situations, using stories, using questions can be really powerful. And in this situation, we're both peers. We're both at the same level of power, if you will. In a situation where, let's say you're the supervisor or the CEO, and you're talking with an employee, well, clearly there's a power differential there, and the situation might be very different. The employee is dependent on you for getting money to pay for their rent, their food, taking care of their family. So they are very concerned about not stepping too far out of line, but they also might be more emotionally reactive. And many times I've seen situations where employees will say, yes, nod, oh, yes, I agree. While in the back of their head, they're shutting down. They don't want to hear it. They're upset. And so in that situation, I'd make the case that using stories and asking questions might actually be the more effective route to nudge them and change their behavior. Be curious to hear what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments. And that's all for today.